Archbishop Josiah Idofiron, Alhaji Yusuf Kankia, Nafisa Ahmed, and Dr. Bashir Bugaje for accepting to speak at this auspicious, important meeting. My name is Amir Bagonje, originally from Kano, but resident in the UK here. Basically, we formed this group, Northern Awareness Movement, sometime in March or April during the peak period of the lockdown. And the reason or the motivation behind forming this group is simple, that we are facing a plethora of challenges in the northern part of the region, issues of security, joblessness, the Almajiri plight, all issues of economic backwardness affecting the region is something that bedevils us, is something that is of high concern to us, we that live in the diaspora. And then we had a discussion, we had a meeting with a lot of people, and we came up with this idea of forming this group in order to find a way of bringing some succor or bringing some sort of solutions to these problems. We are not a government, obviously, we can't do much in terms of finance or in terms of fiscal intervention, but we can certainly make some impact by deploying our expertise, because we have a lot of technical and specialists who reside in different parts of the world, who are ready to sacrifice their time, give their knowledge, and use the platform to impart knowledge and awareness back home. Basically, the aims and objectives of this movement is one, to create awareness on how to live peacefully among each other in northern part of Nigeria. We want to have a society where your religion does not play a part in what you become in your life, but the character and your ability to participate in the socio-economic activities of that place. At the moment, there are challenges, killings in Katsina, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna, Kebbi, Plateau. It's disturbing. So we agreed as diasporans who have knowledge or some degree of knowledge to come together and form this group, and hopefully open a computer learning centers where our members will be imparting knowledge for free to people back home as a way of creating awareness, because COVID-19 lockdown has fast forwarded the reality of online distance learning. Whether we like it or not, the future of education is now on the internet. So it is high time for us now, as Northerners who live abroad, to sacrifice our time, whether it is 1 hour in a week or 2 hours, to impart knowledge back home, create awareness so that our people can achieve their desired objective of peaceful, socio-economic, and vibrant society. So far, we have achieved in sponsoring at least 75 people across Kano, Jigawa, Yobe, where else? Plateau State, in making applications for various jobs, for scholarship applications, because we realize that our people have this sort of fear for computer-based resources. So we say we have to create awareness on how to make people realize there are potentials on the internet. It's just for them to go there, access it, and apply for them and get it. At the moment, most of the beneficiaries of online resources are from the southern part of the country, and it's not something that we are happy about. So we have to create awareness about the online resources that are out there, whether it is in terms of jobs or scholarships or schools or even loans. If you take, for instance, loans given by the CBN during this COVID-19 lockdown, you find that the chunk of it went to the South. And not because the South, manipulate or do it wrong, but because they are the ones that apply for these things. People in the North are not even aware of this opportunity. So we want to create an avenue. Hopefully when we establish these learning centers, apart from making it like a school program for the underprivileged, from the Almajiris to other underprivileged. We want to make the center to be like a hub where people can come and make applications for jobs, for school, for all sorts of things that are there online for people to benefit from. I think my 10 minutes is almost up now. I will give the floor to Alisa to call on the next speaker to start his presentation.
Thank you very much, Amir, for your wonderful introduction of what the organization is all about and for letting the world know that more can be done and should be done for the emancipation and the empowerment of the people from the northern part of the country. Well, our first major speaker for today, which we're absolutely delighted and grateful for, is the Secretary General of the Anglican Communion, Archbishop Joseph Idowu Ferron. He is more or less going to speak to us on the value of understanding religious importance in education from both perspectives, which I believe the Archbishop is going to do justice to. Archbishop, you're welcome to the program. Please may you take the floor and unmute yourself and kindly make your presentation.
Thank you very much and good evening to everyone. Particularly it's good to see Dr. Usman Bugaji. After a few years we haven't seen him. As you have been informed, my topic is achieving peace through education and reorientation in northern Nigeria, and I'll be focusing mainly on the importance of adding value to education. So friends, it is a great honor to be invited to join my sister Nafisa and the other brothers on this panel of discussion in order to give some reflections on this very important theme. We see many weapons used in our region. And please, when I say region, let's get the concept straight. I'm referring to the northern states. So we see many weapons used in this region. There is conflict. And as Amir has said, the weapons that are used cause great harm, not only to individuals, but families, communities, and to our society as a whole. But we have the tools and weapons of our own to push back against this violence, which is very often set up as a conflict between Muslims and Christians. Nelson Mandela famously said, and I quote him, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." And I want to affirm that and say he was right. Education is the weapon that we must all be willing to use in our efforts to live in peaceful coexistence with one another in the northern parts of Nigeria. And that is why some of our current leaders have taken a bold step to fight illiteracy, to fight truancy, incompetence, and the general neglect.
Can somebody ask? Yeah, okay. He's muted. We can't hear him.
We can't hear him, exactly.
Yeah, he's muted.
Oh, yes, I now discovered that I was muted. I did unmute myself.
Okay.
So what did you get? Did you get anything at all?
Yes, we got the, like 5 minutes.
From Mandela.
Oh, gosh. Okay, I'll go back.
Please.
Mandela, I was quoting him, who famously said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And as I said, he was right. Education is a weapon that we must all be willing to use in our efforts to live in peaceful coexistence with one another, particularly in the northern states. And that is why some of our current leaders have taken a bold step to fight illiteracy, truancy, incompetence, and the general neglect of the educational sector in the northern states. I would want to use this forum to appreciate the governor of Kaduna State, who decided to fight this battle even with the threat that he might not be re-elected for a second term as the governor of that state. He went ahead, and today, Kaduna State is moving forward with a new focus and orientation in education. The records are there for all to see. The enrollment in our primary schools has moved from 1.1 million in 2015 to 2.1 million in 2020. The teachers are more competent, the environment more conducive, and kids are being introduced to computer literacy at the primary level. We want to call on all our other governors to emulate this revolution in the educational segment of the northern states. Another leader once said, education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. That was Malcolm X. So I have a couple of challenges, one for our political leaders. Malcolm X talks about tomorrow being for those who are prepared. Our tomorrow is the future, and our today is now, not tomorrow. This current administration in the northern states must take this very seriously. In order to own the future, our political leaders must, as a matter of urgency, invest heavily in the educational sector of governance from the primary all through to the tertiary, as we are currently experiencing in Kaduna State. We must modernize our traditional Islamia and include secular curricula, as the governors have been debating. I believe the debates have gone on for too long. We want to begin to see action. Secondly, a challenge to religious leaders. As religious leaders, we must, as a matter of urgency, cooperate with our political leaders and set up centers where we can bring Christians and Muslims together to study, to share fellowship, and to begin to understand one another's religious traditions, as we are doing in Kaduna. And the Kaduna Center for the Study of Christian-Muslim Relations is working with the support of the government. I will encourage you, our governors, wholeheartedly to see how increasing government investment in religious education can be one pillar of our response to violence and to conflict. The key purpose of education is to open our minds to new thinking, to understand the views of others. It is not simply to affirm what we already believe and think. We know this can be especially damaging when it comes to religious education or a lack of religious education. When we think we know all we need to know about the religion of the other, whether you are a Christian or a Muslim, and are unwilling to expand your knowledge, there is a very real risk that you are yourself part of the problem rather than being part of the solution. How can we ensure that our young people are continuously learning about the beliefs of those who are different from them? It is through good religious education. This is something that can be championed by governments and supported by religious leaders and through institutions like the Kaduna Center for the Study of Christian-Muslim Relations. As I speak of religious leaders and speak as a religious leader, I also acknowledge that we have a significant role to play in order to practice what we preach when it comes to our understanding of our own religion, and a good working knowledge of the other religion is the most important tool we need. As I go around the world and I cover 169 countries, I see how even those who say they are Anglicans are so ignorant of what it means to be Anglican. We are now investing in the education of our bishops through our seminaries, theological colleges, in order to open people up to understand what it actually means to be Anglican. And this is exactly the sort of thing we need to do in the northern states of our country. To be educated in this way does not mean that we must agree with everything that we learn. No, there are many differences within and between religions that express a diversity of beliefs, but we must be willing to hear what others believe and to be able to grapple with those issues in a peaceful manner. And we must proactively find the opportunities to grapple and discuss, because ignorance and all that comes with it, like fear, hatred, and conflict, happens because we separate ourselves from those that we disagree with, and from the other. And this has been the root cause of the problems we are facing in the northern states between Christians and Muslims. We might do this out of concern for ourselves, because some of us believe when my followers see me hobnobbing, say, with the Sultan, they will think I'm compromising. Or when they see the Sultan hobnobbing with an ordinary bishop, they will think he's compromising the faith. These are things that we must also work against, and we must resist the temptation to separate ourselves from those who are different and with whom we disagree. You look at the southwest of Nigeria in particular. Look at the Muslim population in Lagos, in Ogun, in Oyo, huge population, Muslim population, but they don't fight. You see them working together, and I believe in this reorientation we are talking about, we need to begin to educate ourselves and begin to break down the barriers. Therefore, for a reorientation, we must engage in activities together as Christian leaders and Muslim leaders. It is not enough to simply have knowledge and understanding in your head. You must also practice what you learn. Religious leaders can set a good example in engaging in activities with leaders from the other religion, perhaps sharing a platform on issues of mutual concern, or taking part in activities that build trust and relationships. And these examples must be encouraged at all levels of our society, from the very top down to activities of children in primary schools. Let me round up by saying this. I want to come back to the quote that I began with from Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. I strongly agree with this statement, but we also know that education is a lengthy and ongoing process. It does not happen overnight. It requires commitment, investment, sustainability, and cooperation. Another wise man said this about education: knowledge is power. Information is liberation. Education is the premise of progress in every society, in every family. Those are the words of the late Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan. I am struck by the phrase, education is the premise of progress. That is what we need to focus on, progress. There is much to do, and education alone cannot solve our problems. But where we see progress, we find encouragement. We have seen progress in Kaduna State since the revolution in the educational sector of Malam Nasir El-Rufai's administration. We've seen progress since we started the Kaduna Center for the Study of Christian-Muslim Relations, because many who have graduated from that center are now ambassadors of peace, and they are being peace builders in the various communities we have in Kaduna. Let us hope and pray that more of our governors would emulate the good example that Governor El-Rufai has laid and is pursuing in Kaduna State. We need a reorientation in the way we perceive and relate as young Arewa, Muslims and Christians. Based on the clear teachings of our scriptures, particularly Suratul Al-Hujra, verse 13, which makes it very clear, وَجَعَلَكُمْ شُبًّا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. We were created from a single male and female and made into nations and tribes. Why? That we may understand one another. لِتَعَارَفُوا. That is the new orientation I want to propose to my brothers and sisters who've organized this. And by that, we mean these four principles which we operate by at the Kaduna Center for the Study of Christian-Muslim Relations. Number one, there has to be mutual understanding, that is ta'aruf, meaning we must invest in having a working knowledge of the other. Then when we have that knowledge, that should be followed by mutual engagement, ta'awun, that is cooperation with the other in righteousness and piety. Thirdly, mutual contribution, that is ta'asabuk, that is competing with each other in the doing of good works. And the fourth principle is what I call mutual support, that is tadafu. Friends, we need a new orientation, and it should begin from now to see ourselves as people created by the same God. We are different, and education is the future for our children from Arewa, and I hope and pray that we will take that very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Archbishop, for your wonderful presentation in the direction of using education as a tool for progress in the northern part of the country. You have elaborated well, and you have shared your 4-point as well as you round up. Well, we'll go straight to our next speaker, who happens to be a PhD doctorate, and she will be Dr. Nafisa Buba Ahmed, and she is a researcher in education and social justice, and she'll be speaking to us on moving Nigeria forward post-COVID-19, as she has seen, and probably making some presentation as well. So Dr. Nafisa, please can you kindly unmute yourself and make your presentation? Thank you.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome. My name is Nafisa Bab Ahmed, and I'm very honored to be here amongst the panel. Obviously, some big boots to fill following the Archbishop's presentation, which of course was very insightful and inspiring. So of course it's an honor for me to even, be here to speak, and it's one opportunity that I'm very pleased with. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Did you hear me before?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Nafisa Bab
Yes.
Ahmed, and today I will be speaking on moving Nigeria forward. Post COVID-19, taking education and schooling to virtual online platforms. Okay, so there are three key issues here. The first is turning existing existing difficulties into challenges, because we already have issues that are considered difficulties. However, by viewing them as challenges, it gives us a proactive approach and obviously the mindset for a solution, and pragmatic strategies to move forward. Secondly, the COVID-19 climate has shown us a lot. I myself have been very active in education within this climate. I had to move all of the teaching and learning that I do online. So I've been in a really fortunate position to be able to see what has worked and what can continue to work. And thirdly, actually taking education and schooling to virtual online platforms. So I want to start with one of my favorite educational quotes, who is from a guy called Paulo Freire. And it comes from a book, We Make the Road by Walking, about conversations in education in social change. And this quote here shapes a lot of what I do and my approach to education for social change, and in turn, of course, social justice. So I agree with this stance here, that the teacher, of course, is an artist, but being an artist does not mean that he or she can make the profile, can shape the students. What the educator does in teaching is to make it possible for the students to become themselves. So why is that important to me? Well, there is a difference between education and schooling. So in terms of education, if you think of it just as an umbrella term, it's something that encompasses both formal and informal ways of gaining knowledge. So you don't have to go to an institution, such as a school or a college, to be educated. There are ways that we learn in just mainstream life. But however, schooling stands for the initial and secondary stage of formal education that takes place in a school. And that's obviously the school that we know traditionally in Africa is a physical place where people go, spend a good chunk of their time daily and for a third of their lives to come out with an education. So in terms of turning existing difficulties into challenges, there are problems that we already have, which I don't really need to elaborate because they speak for themselves. But the main issue that has really shown us what we can do and how we can really move forward is the COVID-19 climate. So things that have happened and how we have coped with it, especially in the field of education. I think what the COVID-19 climate has shown us here in the UK is, my own personal experience was when we went into lockdown, we didn't have any specific training for what to do. We literally had to take the integrated online learning that we had in place, which, if I'm completely honest, wasn't something that all the teaching professionals I work with were confident with or familiar. It was something that was in place, but it wasn't widespread. It was up to ourselves as tutors to implement it how we see fit. And then lockdown came and we were thrown into the challenge of, go and teach your class online. And this has taken a good 6 months for a lot of us to navigate our way and to make it work. Of course, there has been extensive training and support, which has made us better in able to deliver and deliver the courses and classes online. And I'm speaking as somebody who is pretty confident technologically, but I have colleagues who didn't have the same outlook on technology and the confidence in being able to plan and deliver sessions online. So basically, with the COVID situation, what I was able to see is the potential for the existing problems, as highlighted here, how we can actually use the methods and the practices that I've seen here practiced in the United Kingdom to address and to move our difficulties into challenges, because obviously it's not something that is going to disappear overnight, but it's something that we can implement the strategies that I've been immersed in for the past months in order to move Nigeria forward, basically, in terms of the COVID situation and the existing challenges. And I'm mindful to use the word challenges as opposed to difficulties, because the challenges present potential solutions. So in terms of an online classroom for Nigerian students, I think the benefits of online learning is pretty self-explanatory. Can I ask the moderators to put everybody on mute, please, just because there's some background interference. Okay, so there are 3 key aspects of online learning that is particularly beneficial to Nigerian students. So access, adaptability, and inclusivity. So firstly, access, it would mean access is, people are able to access this. And, we the problem of the Almajiri system. There are children who are out of school. There are children who are even not part of the Almajiri system, who are out of school for many reasons, whether it's financial, cultural, that there's a plethora of barriers to learning. But what the online teaching and learning will do is give people who wouldn't have traditional access to schools to be able to access. And the mobile phone is widespread now. Almajiri children have access to mobile phones. Children who are street vendors have access to mobile phones. So there's a real potential there for access, widespread access, which would mean a huge number increase in participation. The second thing is adaptability. So, online learning obviously encompasses all different levels, all different practices, all different disciplines, subjects, learning styles, disabilities as well. It can be adapted to suit different levels of learning. So having an online classroom that's adaptable to specific disciplines, specific styles of learning, specific different languages, I always advocate for a bilingual system of education, because as useful as English is, it definitely doesn't replace the rich mother tongue and diverse languages that we have in Nigeria. So, you know, there's a real potential there for adaptability. And lastly, and very importantly, inclusivity. So on the issue of inclusivity, again, it's linked to access. And I think we have to be mindful that obviously there is a huge disparity between people who come from very privileged elite backgrounds and those who are at the lowest socioeconomic scale. And we have to be careful that the online learning that we are promoting and trying to implement doesn't cater only for the people whose parents can afford to, in effect, buy their education. And what the proposed online learning can do is make it inclusive, where you could have a platform where you have children who are, you know, go to the highest fee paying schools in the capital city, who have access to world-class learning facilities, but also somebody, a street child who has to go and vend for a living, also could be in the same online platform, the same forum. And it's a very inclusive way that puts down those physical barriers and the barriers of, you know, people who perhaps in physical reality, their paths wouldn't cross. And if they were to cross, it wouldn't cross in an environment like a classroom. A classroom in Nigeria is a very socio-economically exclusive place, but what online learning can do is bridge those socioeconomic barriers and actually allow for people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different religions, different parts of Nigeria. There is no reason why somebody from Sokoto cannot engage in a lesson with somebody from Ikiti. It's something that, you know, transcends barriers of space, culture, time, and all, you know, things like that. So now the important thing here, like I said, you know, is taking everything as a challenge, because with a challenge we can look at, you know, the solutions. And here, these perceived issues that you can see, physical access, students' lack of technical knowledge, infrastructural instability, educators' technophobia, all of these perceived issues have potential solutions in online learning. And the reason why I've listed it as perceived issues is because this comes from a pure conversation with educators. So there are people who I speak to who work in Nigerian education, and all of these listed perceived issues comes from that conversation. So firstly, if we, can you not write on the board, please? Thank you. Okay, firstly, so physical access, we have out of school learners, and that's a range of large numbers of existing students. So we have classes that have up to 100 learners, and that obviously physically just doesn't work. The potential in online learning is that it gives remote access. And here I have two of my new favorite words, synchronous and asynchronous, which is just a fancy technical term, which basically means live sessions and recorded sessions, or learning that's already there. And this allows people to learn in their own space and own time, and that definitely addresses these two issues outlined here. Secondly, students' lack of technical knowledge. Now, I particularly don't necessarily agree with this, because I think that we should, as an educator myself, we should give students more credit in terms of there are a lot of things that they already know. They're not empty vessels, and I argue a lot that students are not empty vessels that we need to fill up. So I don't believe that students lack technical knowledge. I just think that they need to develop it. However, like I said, these perceived issues were based on conversations with people who work within the Nigerian education system. So, you know, I'll take it as a valid point. So there's a perceived student illiteracy in computing and internet use. Again, we live in a digitalized learning era, and there is the concept of learn as you go. I myself everything that I have learnt digitally was something that I learnt through trial and error, through exploratory learning. So I think it's a case of raising awareness to both students and educators that it's a case of going and learning as you go. You're not an empty vessel. You don't need to be filled with this technical knowledge. It's something that you develop, and raising awareness for that is a key to tackling this issue. Thirdly, infrastructural instability, such as lack of electricity, instability of internet services. Again, the fact that the on-demand learning, my favorite two words here, synchronous and asynchronous sessions, they allow for that. So if you don't have electricity, you can still be able to get online and attend the sessions when you do have it. The same thing, internet services, there's a possibility to download information, store it for a later stage. The on-demand learning definitely allows for the learning to come to the student, which is beneficial for issues such as lack of electricity, instability of internet services, etc. And last but not least, educators' technophobia. So I think number two here, lack of technical knowledge. I think there's a lot of projection from educators who actually feel insecure about their own outdated teaching skills. And I think the simple way is to teach or retrain. It doesn't matter how seasoned you are. And I think inducting mandatory training as part of teacher and continual professional development, and showing that learning and teaching is something together. We can learn from our students. It's okay for you not to know something as a tutor. Your students will be able to help you. And I think you can, it's not anything to be shameful of. Like, tutors can learn from learners and vice versa. So that's what I mean by collaborative learning. Okay, and I'm just going to round up now and finish off. And basically, the last point I want to make is that moving forward, we have to understand that Rome wasn't built in a day. And the way to start this is by micro learning and teaching through existing apps. I myself have started teaching children remotely through WhatsApp groups, and WhatsApp is not recognized as a learning platform, but it's something that it's what we have, and that's what we're using for now. We can move on to then introduce model programs and pilot schemes in schools, but we have to be mindful that this is not based on private schools where children's parents can afford this. It's something we have to make sure that is balanced out nationwide. And then from then on, we can move on to setting a deadline for full digital learning integration in all schools, whether they are secondary schools, primary schools, government schools, or very expensive private schools. It's something that I mentioned before needs to be inclusive. Okay, guys, thank you very much for listening. I will leave you with my Twitter handle for any further discussion on this, and my contact email address. Thank you very much. And once again, it's an honor to be invited and to be able to contribute to this panel. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. We appreciate your kind presentation, and we hope we will be able to allow those policymakers up in the northern part of the country to adopt one or two of the initiatives that you just presented. So once again, thank you very much, Dr. Nafisa. We were moving straight to the Nigerian University Commission, where we have Alhaji Kankia that will be presenting to us Northern Education Now and Then, or Then and Now, the difference and a short guide on what has taken place over the years. As we look on to Alhaji Kankia, please unmute yourself, which I believe you have already muted, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Alistair, and thank you very much, Amir. Thank you very much, Archbishop, and my daughter, Nafisa. I'm really very grateful to be invited into this discussion, and then to be given a topic which is virtually a reminder to everybody of what has happened in education in Nigeria. Education in Nigeria, before I go further, first, let me pray for the first professor of education in Nigeria, late Aliyu Babatunde Fafunwa, who died on 10th October 2010. May God bless him and give him Jannah in the hereafter. Next, I will praise Professor Adamu Beki, who is the first professor of education in Northern Nigeria. But before we all go there, how does education start? You cannot do education in Nigeria without quoting the late Professor Aliu Babatunde Fafunwa. May God bless him. Aliu Babatunde Fafunwa referred to education in Nigeria into two categories, formal and informal. The formal, the informal is the education, as Archbishop said earlier, which you learn at home. Unconsciously or consciously, your parent teaches you everything about how to live with others, even how to drink water, how to wear your shoe, how to, all this is education. And then there was the formal education. That one comes with reading, writing, and language communication. Okay, there were two types of education that came to Nigeria. One from the north, one from the south. The one from the north was brought by the Arabs with Islamic religion. The one from the south was brought by the Christian missionary with their evangelism. The first that came to Nigeria was the Islamic education in the far north, because it came in about 4th century. The earliest European that we know arrived in Africa was in 1440s, the Portuguese. The first arrived there. But before then, by 4th century, Islam was fully established in the north, fully established. There is a place called Gobaro in Katsina, which by then it was even regarded now by scholars as a university, because people came from different parts of Africa, Mali, Jenny, Timbuktu, and the rest. They came and studied there. And it produces great scholars like Muhammad Abu Abdullahi, Muhammad bin Masani bin Mubihi al-Barnawi, who's popularly known as Damasani. Damasani, we had Antakun, we have so many others. So during that period, Islam and Islamic education goes with reading, reciting the Quran, reading it, writing and mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology. Everything that is done in the Western form, it was done in the other part of Islam. When you look at mathematics, like for example, algebra is an Arabic word. Many of the things that you find, it is from there. So Islam was fully established there, especially during the reign of Muhammad Koro in 1393 in Katsina. He boosted it. That was the period also we have Muhammad Rabu in Zaria, and we have, please forgive me, Kanu. The name is just going. Muhammadu, I will remember the name. I will come back to him. So they were very famous, very strong leaders, and therefore they were going with the system was going very well. And there were scholars who came from South Africa, Al-Azhar in Cairo. There were scholars who came from Medina. There were those teaching, like Al-Magili was the one who wrote Katsina, Kano, Sokoto, and the rest. That was even before the jihad of Usman Dan Fodio. This was fully established. Okay, at the same time, when the church missionary school, the evangelists came from the south, they too, they opened schools here and there, especially around Calabar area, Mary Selassie, everybody remembers that very well, whoever reads education. They established schools. So now there were two different systems of education, one from the south, one from the north. So, and everybody feels very strongly about his education because both goes with religion. But you'll be very surprised and very amused that all those times, in those earlier days, those who went through the Islamic education and the Christian education, they were living in very, very good harmony. They were excellent friends. I will talk a little bit about it. The Christian missionaries, they opened schools, they established them. And with amalgamation of Nigeria, that was in 1914, there were three protectorates: the protectorate of the South, the protectorate of Lagos, and then the protectorate of the North. Now, all these three protectorates were brought together under one umbrella, and they call the entity Nigeria. That is areas around River Niger. That was what gave birth to the name Nigeria. by the wife of Frederick Lugard. Sorry, somebody. Lugard. Somebody is interrupting. Thank you very much. So she gave that name. So when schools came, now it's amalgamation. When schools were to be open, the Muslim clerics in particular resisted it strongly, very heavily, that why should they abandon their Islamic religion, their culture, somebody is interrupting. Unless I can't hear, So you find they resisted it strongly. So the best that the administration has to do was to make the emirs, the chiefs, to enroll their children into these schools, so that people should know that it does not mean any harm to them. It does not affect their religion, but still people go on with this like a discal attitude, whether to go in taking it or not. But it goes like that, and by 1893 or 1938, Yaba College 1838 was open. It was already a catering and degree given because it was attached to University of London. Similarly, University of Ibadan, which was opened in 1948. By then, remember, there was not a single university in the north. The first tertiary institution that the missionaries opened, or the government of the day opened, was that of Kasna Teachers College in 1922. And we have seen the products of Kasna Middle Teachers Training Colleges. We have the golden voice of Africa, late Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. We had the late Sardan of Sokoto. None of them has achieved any degree. They didn't go to university. But look at what they did. This was a prime minister of the whole country. And Sardauna single-handedly opened Ahmed Bello University, Zaria, in 1962. And that university competed with any other university you could think of in the world. It was fantastic. It was really, really good. And then what happened was there was a mistake here and there. The major mistake that started was they didn't pay much attention to teacher education. So only a few teacher training colleges was open. That of Katsina and which other one? It was very late that this started coming. And there were no vocational training centers, training schools. They opened craft school. Remember, before the arrival of this education, if you go to Nepal, they are making glasses, making mirrors. They make it, they know how to, they have the technology, everything, but there was nothing there. It was recent that University of Technology Mina was open. Just I can say recent, because how long was it? So you find that one affected seriously now the education in the north. Now started with identity, whether we go, no, people don't want to send their children, and especially girls' education. Girls were not allowed to go. In my class, we had only 8 girls when I was in primary school, and not many of them are allowed to go to secondary school. Not many. As soon as the time for going to secondary school, they get a husband and they are married and they disappear. So you find girls' education suffered greatly. That was one of the causes of Usman Danfodia's jihad of 1804, that he wanted to come and see why are women left behind. So the education now, it started with the little we have. We are managing ourselves, we are doing very well, the nurse was doing very well. Then unfortunately, an unfortunate incident happened. What was that? The military intervention and the war that affected Nigeria. So during that period, you find education suffered greatly because the country is now more on trying to bring peace. We are at war with ourselves. So it was trying to bring peace between the country to cement everything. And as such, every aspect of education was left behind. Even the military realized that, look, we're there fighting and our children are suffering no school. So they opened all their command schools. And to the level that they even fight very well up to the level that NDA becomes a university now on its own. So you go to you join NDA, you will come out with at least first degree, at least first degree. So during this period, with the lull of education, it went to sleep. All the leaders who came, there was nothing happened, except when late President Alhaji Aliyu Shehu Shagari came into power. He was a teacher. Yeah, he left teaching in 1956 when he was when he contested for election. So Shehu Shagari, may God grant him peace and mercy. When he came, that was the time now he brings back the teachers. The teachers now started enjoying. That was the time that when you finish NCE, you are on level 7, grade level 7. But during the grade level 7, now you are given a car loan of 4,800 naira. That was 1979. 4,800 naira will buy you a fantastic, beautiful, brand new car. All you need to add is 100 naira to buy Peugeot 504 from Kaduna, or you go buy Toyota Corolla, which will cost you 2,500, or Toyota Corona 2,700, or Toyota Crown 2,900. So you find when you see all these panel vehicles, Toyota panel vans moving around, it belongs to teachers, NCE. Now that was the time that people's teachers now started being active, more active rather, because before then, all those who joined teaching, they joined teaching because they are in love with the profession. When we first went, I went through Advanced Teachers College, Kano. In the first lesson, the first week, that what we are told is, if you are interested in making money or becoming somebody that everybody will be talking about you, please, you are given 1 week to think over, leave, this is not your work. A teacher is supposed to be a father, is supposed to look after everything about his students, not thinking of how to make money. By the time we were teaching, I think we were about 87 teachers in Katsina alone. When I was teaching in Katsina Teachers College, there is nothing we can show up. What would the only thing? Only one of us has our Gambari brocade, light blue. I'll never forget it. Every Friday, we don't even like Friday to come because he will wear it with the Elori hat and on a Vespa. And whenever he passes in the class, we look at that, so look at him. We all talk rubbish about him because we are jealous. We can't afford it, but we are contented. We are so happy to look after our students. So that one, that neglect in itself causes a lot of backwardness in education in the North. People who are willing. I went through Southern Kaduna, Kachia Secondary School. We were very few then, very few Muslims. 8 of us from Katsina, that was all. And it was the first secondary school outside Zaria, which is not a Christian school. All the other schools in Kwai, in Zamkwa, in Kagoro, they were all missionary schools before they are converted into government secondary schools. So we went through there. I have more friends. I want to tell Archbishop, I have more friends from Southern Kaduna than friends from Katsina, because that's also I did my early youth education. And up to now, we are in communication with majority of them, those who have died and those who are still there, and a lot of them. So the integration has been there, but what happened is some of us now started going astray because we have reached ourselves in one way or the other, and we start looking down upon others, not knowing how did you come to get to be who you are. So that total neglect in itself assisted in bringing down education. You find children of the house, they go to schools with dollars, not naira. Somebody swore to me that they go to school with dollar, not naira. So how do you expect somebody whose father cannot afford 3 square meals? He has never even seen a dollar. If you throw it out, you just pick it and say, this is a picture. He doesn't know even what it is. But they give them dollars. They buy them fantastic vehicles. You see them parading everywhere. They do all that. And the children of the have-nots are still looking at them, they are still suffering. So during those days, I remember those who have, when they send their children, say, okay, let them go. They will come back, we'll meet at secondary school. Because when we meet there now, because then there were no private secondary school. So we meet there. Now we see how much their parents have spent for nothing. And when you come back here, people started sending children for nursery education into UK, USA, all over the world. Nursery education. Which what is wrong in training and doing controlling our children? We are destroying our culture. We are destroying our languages. We are destroying everything else. And it was self-made, self-imposed, because we say now everything we want the government. No. If I may ask those watching us, those listening, please and please and please, how many of us have gone back to our first primary school to see how it looks? How many? The moment we finish primary, that is the end of it. We finish secondary school, that is the end of it. But go there, maybe with a very big car, you happen to be retired, go there. People will look at, the children will look at you, and the headmaster will say, this man passes through this school. So what we are training you is to come and have this type of vehicle. Come and, that is another form of incentive. You give it to them. If there is nothing, no incentive, that is little, very little we can do in the field of education. So now, let us come back and see how many institutions, how many teacher training colleges do we have? In this country, you cannot be a teacher in a classroom, primary school, unless and until you have graduate certificate in education. Even if you get 10 stars in your paper, you cannot just jump and become a teacher assistant. You can only assist, because you are not a trained teacher. And if you want to become a teacher, there is a certain fund. The government assists you with a lot of money, because we want to get more, they want to get more teachers. And that is why the education is very stable, very dynamic, very strong. Those that were taught from primary school, when they go to secondary school, the teachers in secondary school don't have much problem, because they had a solid foundation. Headmasters here can earn up to 50,000 as an MP. Go back home. What do we do? The government now, when you talk, they'll say it is too much. There are so many. There is population explosion.
Thank
We
you.
agree. No, please let me. Okay. So what we need to do, as I said, often vocational training centers. Not everybody could go to university, but if you have teachers, a teacher knows there is nobody who cannot learn. That is what we call slow learners. There are people that when we think that a teacher, that's how they do one-to-one. A teacher used to follow a student up to his parents' house to go and find out what is wrong. Why is he not concentrating on the class? And before you finish, you start NCE, or before you finish, you must write a thesis. You must write a book on child study. You must take a child who is no relative of yours from any other village, go and stay with them, study him, and write a book about him. Psychology, that's in child psychology. So if we are to bring all this back with digital learning now, you find if we have trained teachers that will impart this knowledge, it will be fantastic. The sky is our limit. Believe me, we cannot be challenged, we cannot be caught. One, when we say about the Archbishop, when he was talking about the integration between Muslim and the Christian, you find it has been there. During the period of Sardauna, he was another premier. Sardauna, his advisor, was a non-Muslim, was a Christian. You know, and whatever we are going to do during the period of late Metamasle, may Allah bless him also. Anything you say, let us ask Sarikin Kagoro. Sarikin Kagoro in southern part of Kaduna, anything that is to be done, first the leaders of area will go and ask, he's a Christian. But that was how we were, brothers, keepers of each other. Why are we not doing it now? Because education is gone. There were even, I can tell you, there was a state in the north, when the governor found that there were so many workers in local government area. He all reduced them and said, go to classroom. And that was opposite of what Nasser El-Rufai did. If this one, he said, from local government, go to, then what type of students do you expect them to produce? And now, what are the infrastructures? We don't have it. We don't have classroom. And why do we need, during those periods, in those days, we went to Philippines, we went to Sri Lanka, we brought so many people to come and teach. Why
Thank
we
you
have
very
people?
much.
Oh.
I'll give you just 1 minute, please, to round up.
Okay, so we went to Sri Lanka and all others. We have people who have graduated, who have NCE, who have certificate graduate in education. Please, governors, bring them back. They are pensioners, give them additional 30,000, attach them to schools, attach them to principals, attach them to headmasters. There should be a guide. And then, believe me, we find from there, we'll start coming back. Sorry, this paper is too small. It should have been more than an hour because there are a lot of things I omitted to say. So, but
thank you very much.
Wow,
thank you very much,
so much.
Alhaji Kankia from the National University Commissioner, for
you.
your presentation. Indeed, it is a century historical perspective that you're sharing with the global community, and especially where we are and how did we get to where we are today. But you have highlighted what needs to be done, such as putting together vocational centers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are absolutely moving according to the timing, and we are doing very well, not in the Nigerian way, but the Nigerian way as well. The Nigerian time, we're changing to the global community time. So last speaker for this evening is none other than Dr. Usman Bagaje, who happened to be the convener Area Research Development Project, and he will be sharing with us on education for development. Dr. Bagaje is, as you know, somebody who has shared widely, written widely, spoken widely on the Nigerian issue, not just on the northern agenda, not just on the northern policy, but across Nigeria and by and large across Africa. So it is our pleasure to have you kindly unmute yourself and make your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me first say how delighted I am to have the opportunity to share some of these thoughts. I know time is not very much on our side, and we need to be as brief as we possibly can be. I have chosen the topic of education for development, fixing the nexus between knowledge and policy, because I think ultimately education is supposed to drive and inform development. Development is critical in any human society. Any human society that fails to develop will decay and go into extinction. So development is the lifeline, and education is the major, if you like, stimulus, the major driver of development, because it is the one way to unlock the human ingenuity, and human ingenuity is what really creates development. Therefore, it's important we focus when we discuss about education in Nigeria today. I know there are 100 other topics that you can speak. Education is a very wide topic, and it's something that needs to. But let me also remember to congratulate the Northern Awareness Movement for taking up the issue of education, because you are starting right. It is the one major thing that if we can focus, we can actually transform our country. Maybe also I should remember to say that for many centuries, one of the Greek philosophers said, in the whole world, there are basically one good and one evil. And that good is knowledge, and that evil is ignorance. Anything good that you see in this world comes from knowledge. And anything bad, the conflict we have, the killings, and all the other problems we have comes from ignorance. And part of the problems we're having with education, with politics, with agriculture, with everything in Nigeria is precisely because knowledge is not driving that development. It is precisely because people who are not knowledgeable, who know what to do and what should be done are not where things are being done. And it is because the people who are in charge at the moment do not have the knowledge, the appropriate knowledge to be able to deliver on the offices or on the seats, they occupy. But let me come back to the three major issues I want to focus. I want to look at content. I want to look at how knowledge should drive policy, and the fact that government policy today does not look for knowledge. They look for some other things to drive it. Now, these are very related, but it's important to segregate them so that we can focus and see what is it that we can do about them. The first is the issue of content. And you see, content is critical. At the moment, the educational policy of this country is not very well known. If you ask the average educated person, what is the educational policy of this country? Yeah, you can go online and pick it up, but eventually people don't even know what the educational policy is. But that's the lifeline of any community, because that educational policy is not the priority of government, and not just this government, governments before this one. And this is why, in fact, we are losing out on education. And because that is, the policy itself is not very clear, basically what we are doing at the moment is we are just, producing certificates. People who have got certificates, you have got people with PhDs, but when you really ask them at the global level to sit and discuss, you find them wanting. A lot of what we do in postgraduate in Nigerian universities is just cut and paste. And when you engage scholars, you find them not even aware of what the global standards are. And this is because we have focused on certificates and we have ignored the critical aspect of the content of education, which is critical thinking and creative thinking and problem solving. Because an educated person is supposed to be able to solve problems. That's what education is there for. You go about with certificates and you cannot solve problems. Actually, this education has not been useful in any way. So it's important also we realize that content must be related to national needs. What is the vision of our country? What is the goal? What is our national development plan? What do we want to achieve in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years? This should be the goals that should inform our education. Let us say we want to become, a regional power in West Africa. Therefore, we want to have our economy to reach that particular level. Then you walk back and say, okay, for our economy to develop to this level, we definitely need we need this number of engineers, we need this number of doctors, we need this number of sociologists, we need this number of architects. This is the kind of way every other country has planned. This is how Singapore became at the cutting edge of technology. 30, 40, 50 years, it was a fishing village, literally, with nothing. But they planned and they were able to get there. This is how South Korea, in the 60s, South Korea was a country that went through civil war, lost nearly 2 million people. And 20% of South Korea, by the way, is the only land available. The rest of it is rocky. But today they are, food sufficient, despite the fact that they have only 20% that is really arable. They are the cutting edge of technology. They are the producer of Kia, Hyundai, Samsung, LG, mention it. Things that we use in our own houses. They were able to get there, not because they had oil, they had no oil at all, but because they were able to, unlock that human ingenuity. And that is what education is supposed to do. But you have to have goals that are clearly linked. And because of this, today, we are also, just one aspect of this content, when you look at our curriculum in agriculture or in science or in anything, you will think that we're actually studying the history of science or the history of agriculture, because the world has gone past that stage. So our graduates cannot even link to the industry, because what they are being taught and what is being taught in the universities does not measure up to the actual needs of our own society. And we have to come back. One of the platforms I'm working has been urging the northern governors to transform the curriculum of their colleges of agriculture to move away from production to processing. Because if you want to fix agricultural value chains, if you want to create jobs in the agricultural sector, then we have to move from the primary production to processing. That processing requires skills. Those skills for processing are not currently in the curriculum of our agricultural colleges and the faculties of agriculture in the Nigerian universities. And therefore, these are the kind of changes that we have to make to our own content. Now, when we speak about the link between knowledge and policy, if you look at China, if you study China in the last 20 years and how it actually emerged and became a global player, in terms of technology, in terms of economy, it is precisely because they made their universities to drive their own development. And they got their university to do research that solved the problems of their own society. At the moment, that link is not there. Government is doing its own thing, and university is doing its own thing. And knowledge, or let me say, governance today in the 21st century is a corporate scientific business. It involves planning. You need accurate data to plan. It involves goals setting. You need timelines. You need monitoring and evaluation. All these are missing in our governance. You find people coming or becoming governors, they have no idea of, some of them have not written even one page of what is it that they really want to do. And when you engage them, honestly, they have no idea of what to do. Now you can't, this is one of the most reckless things to do. You are given resources and we have no idea what to do with them. And that's why this corruption is taking an astonishing kind of proportion. You find people just simply eating the money because they don't know what to do with it. A lot of these institutions of government and the states, if you have been following my own state and Kankia's state also, Katsina, there has been a lot of revelations of how billions were stolen and were just simply misused. Now go back and ask the governor, when you became a governor, what is it that you want to do? He has no idea. And this is how most governors are, to be fair. I'm not picking him up because I'm just using my own state to demonstrate a very painful phenomena in our own governance, that people come and they have no idea. If you ask a minister, in not only in this particular government, even the government before them, what is your mandate? What are your timelines? What are your deliverables? These things are not done. And this is because that knowledge that should inform governance is not there. There is a disconnect between people who are in government. And this is why, not only that because we have no development plans, we also do not follow our budgets. Our budgets, are laughable. They are, basically ridiculous. You find a situation where the amount that you are budgeting for the education for the whole country is what the National Assembly is using to renovate the National Assembly. Renovate the National Assembly. I mean, you can't be this reckless when you have over 10 million, some is even putting in 15 million children out of school. Look at the classrooms, congested. Look at the teachers, they are not even trained. Just like our daughter Nefisa has indicated, we are at the lowest level of educational development in the world. We need these resources to be able to lift us from this particular level so that we can get somewhere. So these are issues that we have got to see that we remedy, because unless we allow or we insist that knowledge drives governance, drives policy, we are going to continue to come back on these issues and talk and talk and talk about. The last point I want to is related to what I've said, but I just want to distinguish it because it's also our, and this is how government policy is not benefiting from the knowledge that is already available. You look at Anko Borough, because there is no time. Anko Borough is one of the greatest opportunities we have to develop our agriculture, because one of the major problems of the small-scale farmer is access to finance. He has the land, but he doesn't have the money to make the input. Anchor borrower is a soft loan with very little interest, but it has never worked because the way to do it, and the way to do it has been worked out in colleges of agriculture and so many other places, but the government will not use that. The central bank does not, even does the proper monitoring and evaluation of its own. So year in, year out, billions are spent out there. Politicians simply distribute it to their cronies, and the money is eaten up, and they come back with false reports and a lot of propaganda that doesn't really say. So it's a very painful thing. The government is not using the knowledge that is available. Also, we have got the major problem of not prioritization, lack of prioritization of knowledge in governance. The appointments that are given are not based on knowledge, but this is because our political parties are also not prioritizing knowledge. They prioritize loyalty, they prioritize violence, they prioritize, and this is why it's thugs and criminals that fill in the political corridors, and therefore knowledge is not an issue. We have got to come back and make an issue. I'm aware that my time is up, but I just want to make this point that I consider important. After all this, what do we do? How do we resolve this problem? And I think the way to do it, and I'm not saying this is the only way, but one way that I'm convinced, and maybe because I've been in politics in the last 20 years, is that we have got to change the leadership recruitment mechanism in our political parties so that we recalibrate it where it would prioritize knowledge and competence, so the people who will emerge as leaders, not only as governors, not only as president, not only as minister, but also in the National Assembly and the state assemblies, so they can track the budget, and knowledgeable people. Until we can do that, I cannot see how we can recover. And if we don't recover, we may go down the drain, God forbid. But part of your own responsibility as young people, I've seen a lot of young people on this platform, myself and Archbishop, who are basically very soon be saying goodbye. I mean, that's my generation, and I'm happy to work with him on a number of platforms. But I think young people have to take it upon themselves to change their political trajectory in Nigeria. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck with people who are largely ignorant, who are criminals, who are crooks, and these people will only destroy. They can never build. I thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Usman Bagaji, for your wonderful presentation and outline on the educational development that is needed in Nigeria. And by and large as well, not only once again on the northern part of the country, but something all across the nation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have this wonderful 4 speakers. Now, one thing I said I'm quickly going to do is I'm just going to give 30 seconds to Dr. Usman Bagaji, just to summarize in 30 seconds, Doctor, or in 1 minute, being generous today, in Hausa. Dr. Usman.
So, abin da na so ko na yi ta ƙoƙarin faɗa in za a dunkule shi a cikin Hausa, shine ilimi shine ginshiƙin ci gaban al'umma. Duk al'ummar da ba za ta iya ci gaba ba, to ba za ta iya rayuwa ba. Ƙarshenta lalacewa za ta yi, ta ƙare, ta ɓace daga bayan ƙasa. Saboda haka ci gaba kuma bai yiwuwa sai da ilimi. Ilimin nan shine ginshiƙi na ci gaban duk duniya da a gani, tun daga aka fara ta har ƙarshenta. Saboda haka duk mai hankali, mai tunani, abin da zai fara ginawa idan ya zo ya samu mulki shine ya gina ilimi. Domin ilimin nan shi zai bashi kwanciyar hankali, shi zai bashi ci gaba, shi zai kawo abinci ya yalwata, arziki ya yawaita. Duk abin da zaka samu na alheri a duniyar nan ta hanyar ilimi zaka same shi. Duk kuwa wanda ya bar ilimi to ya bar ci gaba, kuma yana neman lalacewar ƙasar. Amma abin da ya sa muke cikin halin da muke cikin yanzu, saboda mun ɗauki mutanen da ba su da ilimi, mutanen da suke zaune gari banza, su ne wai shugabanni, su ne 'yan siyasa, su suke yi mana tattalin arzikinmu, su suke tsara shi, su suke kasafin kuɗi, su suke saboda haka sai su je zawake wawaye ne, sakarkaru ne, sai su rabe tsakankanin su sayi manyan motoci, su gina gidajen da ba su iya shiga, don in sun shiga ma sai ka iske wani gari guda yake ginawa da kuɗaɗen jama'a, kuma ana kallon shi, kuma bai jin kunya, bai tsoron Allah. To ya za mu kyale irin waɗannan mutanen? Mu da muka yi karatun nan, muka yi ilimi, ai za mu zama wawaye. Ya za mu bar wawaye su ɗauke mana ƙasa suna lalata ta? Ai lokaci ya zo da mai ilimi ya haɗu da sauran masu ilimi, a haɗu a sanya za a ƙwato wannan siyasar daga hannun marasa ilimi, a kaita inda ya kamata a kaita, don ƙasarmu ta samu hanyar da za ta farfaɗo kuma ta shiga sahun ƙasashe masu hankali na duniya da suke ci gaba. Na gode.
Dr. Bagaji, for summarizing this wonderful thing in Hausa language. Hausa is, of course, Arewa, standing for that, and North standing partly and mostly for the Hausa-speaking communities in Nigeria. Now we're going to go straight to question and answer. And so I can see one hand up. So I'm going to start with Isa Abubakar. Isa Abubakar, please unmute yourself and ask straight your question.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Yes, Isa Abubakar, go on.
Hello, Army. Hello, good afternoon. How are you? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
You got me. So, for me, I don't have a question, but I'd like to grab some comment there. I would like to say there was a great mentor in South Africa called Julius Malema saying, for you to destroy a nation or for you to destroy a community, you don't have to provide a weapon or something like that, or knife or gun to shoot someone or to destroy people. At least for you to destroy the nation, you can just give a full quality education. As we are young, we are the young generation, we are the one we're supposed to work up, working harder to change our community. We have a great job to do, we have a nice job to do. I just want to motivate my young that are in the same age with me. So we have to work harder to move Nigeria forward around the globe. Education system is the most important fact in our nations. Is very poor.
Thank
You're
you.
saying what?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Isa. Let me quickly move into Malami. I hope it's a question. Malami, you can unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Hello, good evening. Can you confirm that you can hear me, please?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Can you please hear me? Oh, okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. First of all, I would like to use this this opportunity to thank the organizers and also to thank all our speakers. You really have done to the topics. But I have some question to the second speaker, which is Nefisa. She mentioned about the online teaching, online learning and all of that. And not forgetting that in Nigeria, we have a lot of developmental challenges. You are talking about access to online resources. You're talking about you need to have data, you need to have even the facilities that can even be used to access those resources. So in a typical northern Nigeria, I am not sure if we can be able to do all of this now, unless if the government will put in place some deliberate effort and action to make this happen. One. To Dr. Bugaji, thank you very much, sir. You have really highlighted all the issues, but then the problem is it's not always about the issues, it's about how can we start. We now have an understanding of where the problem is, and then how can we start solving the problem. I think that is that has been our issue. Thank you very much. I would like the Dr.
Thank you, Malami. I will thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your question. Though I'm not clear what your question is, I perceive that you're saying that because of the problems for people to buy data to use the internet, therefore we won't be able to move education online. I suggest you have a look at the statistics and data for internet use and consumption in the demographic of Nigeria, in particularly for the consumption of pornography and how that's infiltrated young males under the age of 16, as young as 6 years old, who can access pornographic material on their mobile devices. And this includes almajiri and street vendors, the children. And if they can have the data to access that, then they can have the data to access educational resources. In terms of funding, if you cannot fund, if there is no funding available, then it needs to be created. As Dr. Bugaja suggested, where people are spending money on private jets and lavish weddings and other things that are for lifestyles of people who are not in leadership and responsible for public funds for the benefit of sectors like education, then what the case is a redress and making sure that the funds, instead of going to lavish lifestyles of private jets and lavish weddings and that kind of lifestyle, should be diverted to fund education and platforms that allow for virtual learning in 2020, because there is no reason why the rest of the world should be online and learning and our children will be left watching pornography by the roadside. I hope that answers your question.
Dr. Bugaja, you want to add anything to this?
Well, he did ask about where do we start. I just want to say that it would appear to me, and I hope I'm wrong, what young people in Nigeria who are educated are doing is that they are just folding their arms and watching because politics is dirty. They don't want to get anywhere near there. Now, they are not wise in doing this because they're just simply watching people destroying their country. So I think they just have to be more organized and get into any particular party they want and make sure that the criteria for the selection of leadership within the party is changed. I can tell you straight away that I'm already putting together a platform at the national level, which is going to bring all these educated people that want to bring change to come in so that we can have the momentum and probably or hopefully the tipping point to make sure that this change comes. And maybe in the next 1 month or so, this online platform is going to come. We are making efforts, every state in the north, to start its own platform, which will bring in people as a movement for a start. And then that movement with its core values, with very clear goals set, can now move as a group, a massive group, into a political party and fight it out with the people who are now ripping off the country and destroying it. And this is the only way I can see. I'm prepared to take any other path that looks reasonable, but I'm not prepared to watch, and just lament. Every place we go, we say, oh, our country is bad. What are we doing? Let's exhaust our own the opportunities that we have. And one way is to just go as a group and get into any political party. If you want, you can join this particular movement. You read about it. You look at the goals that have been set. You look at the core values that are going to be set. And this is it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Usman. Let's quickly move to Bara'atu Ibrahim. If you can unmute yourself, and then the last one would be Rabi.
I'm so sorry, I didn't realize I had raised my hands. I was very excited when Dr. Nafisa was talking just earlier about online learning. I just had an opinion and I didn't even know I had raised my hands. But in any case, I did have a question which I was going to send to her by private email, but I could ask. I was wondering, she mentioned earlier when she did her presentation that she is involved very helpfully with WhatsApp learning with some, I don't know if it's here in the UK or back home in Nigeria. I have, of course, family back there, and I have nephews and nieces that are struggling with lack of data. It's very sad that the reality is not every school is involved with this online learning and things like that. So some of them do go through WhatsApp. I'm just wondering how she goes on and handles that kind of learning via WhatsApp.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, thank you for your question. So I addressed WhatsApp as a micro initiative, and that's basically the approach that individuals can take. Now, as somebody who works in the education sector, WhatsApp, we're not actually allowed to use WhatsApp. So for my courses that I teach, I work in adult education and I work in higher education. The quality team don't allow us to use WhatsApp for many reasons, standardization, privacy, things like that. We're not even allowed to use Zooms for one of the classes I teach. So the WhatsApp is a micro level, which I use, and I use it to teach children who are my relatives, their family members, because they have been out of school for the whole lockdown. And it was a case of when I was teaching online using the platforms I do, which isn't WhatsApp, I realized that I could use WhatsApp because these children wouldn't be able to get onto other major platforms without having specialist classes to induct them. So the WhatsApp is a pure individual micro scale, which I, as somebody who is trained in education, can do that. However, anybody can do this. Anybody can open up a mentorship through a WhatsApp group. And what you could do as a gesture of goodwill is fund the data from your own pockets. And if you think of, obviously, most of us here have a level of wealth and privilege that we could afford to sponsor people back home for data packs, and even for the devices they need. You could sponsor somebody for a phone or a tablet without going into too much. You know, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but a lot of the education initiatives I do is 100% self-funded, which of course I'm proud to be able to do that. So in your case, and in everybody else's who really does want to make a start of an impact for the initiative, is I would say try to do it from a goodwill perspective on a micro scale, fund these kids in terms of data, in terms of the devices, and see how it grows from there. From WhatsApp, it's a micro scale. Hopefully we will have our own independent platform that works within Nigeria, and you know, one that's very dynamic and very, you know, the things that I mentioned. I hope that answers your question. And of course, you know, I'm happy to share the good practices if you want to reach out to me on any of my social media.
Thank you very much. I think I need to just give one or two people an opportunity to ask. I'm not too sure because I can't see Suleiman's hand up, but let me go to Aisha Kankia. Please, short and snappy. There's a lot of people from Kankia. Where's Kankia, by the way? You don't need to answer. Go straight. Thank you. Aisha Kankia on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just want to make a quick, I just want to say this has been such an insightful and a very, very highly informative presentation. And I'm very, very proud to have joined. I'm actually Alhaji Kankia's daughter. So Daddy, I'm proud of you and I've learned so much from you. And you're such an inspiration for me, and you've helped me join the education sector. I've taught in the UK and I've also taught in Nigeria, and I've learned so much from you, Dad. And Dr. Osman Bugaji, you've been fantastic. Nafisa, fantastic. Archbishop, you've been fantastic. I've learned so much from you. I look forward to hearing more from you guys as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the thank you connection. So that's very nice. Right. straight to Suleiman. Suleiman, can you please unmute and ask or come in quickly?
My question goes to Dr. Bogaji, the first question. Doctor, I'm really happy because I wanted to ask you a question, whether there's you are trying to come up with a plan to bring the young people from northern Nigeria who are educated into the fold of the politics. And I'm really happy to hear that, okay, you have this plan. But my worries is this. Politics is local. I don't know which plan you have on ground to address this, because someone cannot be in Abuja or cannot be in Kaduna, or is from Katsina or from Kankia, but has no relevance in his own locality. One area that I would like to ask how you intend to come up with this approach, and how are you going to address all these issues, because we must have relevance at our
Thank you, Suleiman.
Okay, do you want me to address this quickly?
Please go ahead, Doctor.
Suleiman, politics is local, but also politics is international. Where are you going to get the ideas? If you are in the diaspora, you are in a very good position to generate ideas, to contribute. And it's a community work, it's not one person. So the fact that you can generate the ideas, you can participate on an online platform, means that you can actually participate in politics. And don't go by the current standards. All this noise about, oh, you have to be there, you have to attend to people's wedding, you have to do all the stupid things that stupid politicians are doing. Don't do those kind of standards, please. We want to change. We want to change the whole paradigm. And therefore we should, and we have the numbers, we have the knowledge. We should not allow these idiots, sorry to use the words, for our own country, please. So, go to the online platform. You will have a lot of discussions. You will be able to contribute from wherever you are. You may be in China, you may be in Latin America. You will have a lot to contribute. After all, what should drive politics are ideas. You are in a place where you can generate a lot of ideas. We are lucky that we have people like you who are in the diaspora who have got the ideas that we are looking for. You can look at Nigeria's problem and say, okay, how do I solve this problem? Right now, we want to solve the problem of getting data, to young people on the street so that they can learn something positive, right? Some of you who are in the UK, I've seen, the people who have spoken about this, can actually form a committee and say, hey, how can we solve this problem? And you may come up with some bright idea. You give it to this platform, and the local people there will now help you translate that into real practice. We don't have to wait for us, for our party or for our platform to win any election. We can go ahead to implement it. And this is the kind of thing we want to do. We are not doing it because we want power. We are doing it because we have the commitment to change our society. And we cannot allow this society to go down the drain.
Thank you very much.
So please don't allow any politician to sort of intimidate you. We are the ones that should set the standard, not them.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Usman Bagaji. You have been speaking very well, and your views and policies for now, as Dr. is sharing, Dr. Usman Bagaji's. Let me quickly call on the Archbishop to say one or two things. Please, Archbishop, in Hausa, likewise. Unless if you're not able to, then you can speak in Hausa.
I will speak in my own language. And I'm not sure any of you will understand my language. I've seen all the names. Anyway, kalma guda kawai nike da. Ilimi da bu addini ba ilimi bace. So komai ilimi ya kamata a haɗa da tsoron Allah. Kuma ba yadda mutum zai san abubuwa da Allah ke bukata in shi mutumin ba shi da addini. Abin da zan faɗa kenan. Na ji abubuwa da aka faɗa, amma kada manta da addini. Abun da ke ci mana tuwa ƙwarya yawa arewa shine rashin ganewa da ma'anan addini.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As we come to the conclusion of our first Northern Awareness Movement on education, and many other subjects and topics will follow in this conversation with NAB and EAM. Let me quickly call Mr. Amir to make a short remark before we now conclude this event. Thank you. Amir?
Yes, thank you once again, Archbishop Josiah Ibn Ferron, Dr. Usman Bugaje, Nafisa Baba Ahmed, and Alaji Yusuf Kankia for wonderful presentations. We are going to leave this webinar very much more informed, more educated, and more enlightened than we were. Thank you very much. Let me just reiterate our objectives at NAM, that is Northern Awareness Movement. I think Dr. Nafisa spoke well about, almost the core values of what we want to achieve. That is to have a virtual learning centers in northern states where we, the diasporans, can be delivering lectures to the underprivileged, particularly the Almajiris and other kids who wouldn't have the chance to have quality education, to have them. It's a wonderful chance for us to leverage and make sure we contribute to the society. We have the manpower in all categories of education, IT, economics, finance, media, medicine, all of them, we have them. They are just waiting to have the platform to deploy their knowledge and help our people back home. So we're appealing to the people that have the means to please come and do these centers. We have sent some request letters to some prominent personalities, particularly from Northern region, to help us establish these centers. We have our people to give knowledge for free. I don't think I know of any initiative like this in Nigeria. This would be the first of its kind, to have a free school run on charity for the purpose and the benefit of underprivileged population, so that we achieve peace, development, prosperity, like the rest of the country and the world at large. Thank you very much to the four speakers. Thank you very much to all the people that participated. Thank you very much to the people that asked questions and comment. I will say bye-bye from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amir. Well, just 10-second hour, because though I saw your hand a long time ago, but I'm just kindly giving you 10-second. Hopefully it's not a question.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I really wanted to say thank you for the organizers of this very educative webinar. We are expecting more and more. Please, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mentoring Commandant Alistair. Want to try and speak Hausa actually. Mun gode kwarai da kuka zo nan wurin kuka yi magana. Allah ya taimake mu, Allah ya taimaki Najeriya gaba ɗaya. Saboda duk waɗanda ke son su taimaki Najeriya, Allah ya sa addu'arku ya zama gaskiya. Once again, mun gode kwarai, sai mun sake dawowa. My name is Mentoring Commandant Alistair. Once again, thank you very much. And Amir, thank you. Thank you to all our speakers. We will be back again. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.